Minutes.
Thank you, Chair. First off, I just want to thank Deputy Joe Higgins for an excellent motion. I'll be supporting it. The 1913 lockout period achieved something massive. It established the fact that ordinary people have power if they wish to flex that particular muscle. And they still do, and it's something people should remember. It also established the fact that the media, if let get too powerful and if left unchecked, can act as an instrument that destroys democracy and people's right to choose their own leaders. The same muscle that was used by unions over the decades to varying degrees of success became atrophied during the so-called Celtic Tiger period or era or disaster or whatever word you want to use at the end of that. When the need to flex this muscle again was required with the collapse of the economy, unfortunately that muscle had become limp, a bit like an arm after you take it out of plaster in Paris. It just didn't seem to be ready, and it should have been ready. So I suppose one of the reasons we're sort of told why they didn't do the radical things that they were meant to and they were mandated to do is that they were, I suppose, seen by people as too risky, like the idea of a mortgage strike, which they were mandated to do at an ICTU conference, but I suppose it was seen as too risky. Well, the people in 1913 took much bigger risks than the idea that they might lose maybe the right to go to the cinema for a month or whatever. They lost their food out of their mouths, and they left behind a legacy. But they went through hellish pain for it, and I suppose some people would say they didn't win it in the end, but they established something. And but the most important thing to remember was that to change things, sometimes you have to go through serious pain and take risks. Now, I suppose you could be critical of a lot of the unions, and you can be very critical of them. I would, because unions have the ability and the people power to change things if they so wish. And credit to the INMO. They showed a little bit of resolve, in my opinion, above many unions since our economy originally collapsed those few years ago. Their motion for a mortgage strike in 2011, which passed their own union and was brought to ICTU, was an opportunity to look at, I suppose, workers' rights from a different angle, not just from the point of view of what money was coming in, but also what money was going out through massive debt. And their idea, if it had been followed through on, would have actually saved us an awful lot of hardship, because we're going to end up in this big hole anyway, where we're going to have to make massive decisions like this. But if unions had used their firepower and been brave, like those people 100 years ago, then we wouldn't be in the hole that we're in now. And we are in a hole because no matter what way you try and dress it up, now there's a new lockout. There's a lockout of people from basic services, because this banking debt that wasn't fought by potentially hundreds of thousands of people could have been mobilised very easily. You know, a lot more than I suppose anyone in the opposition could have done it, because they have these people as members, but they didn't act on it. And people would have had more money in their pockets. People wouldn't be paying the crazy mortgages that they are now. We would have fought the ECB, because at least the government could have went off and said, look, it isn't us that's doing it, it's those terrible people, they're forcing it on us, and you need to write down the debt. But that wasn't done. It can still be done, because it has to be done. And it's sad, like, that really, when you think of the power that these unions still have if they want to flex those muscles, that a little group growing all the time like Ballyhay have more of an impact, and they're still not giving up. Why don't they show a bit of bravery, the union leaders, now? Is it that they're too comfortable? You'd have to suggest that it is. Because surely your ideas can't change that much, from going from pegging stones at pickets to being a union leader who doesn't give a damn anymore. So please, I think people need to learn something from what happened back then. And the big thing they need to learn is there are times when you've got to take a risk. And these unions, really, what risk are you taking anymore? Because people are going through hell. Now things are so bad that you can't even get into our mental hospitals when you're on the verge of suicide. I was told, go away.
I now call on Deputy Madam McGrath.
I too am delighted to be able to speak to this motion tonight. I want to say at the outset that I'm not supporting it and I don't agree with most of it. A very selective reading.
Ború and Seanad in unad éis grisú fan.
Luke Ming Flanagan.
Thank you, Lascan Corla. I will be voting in favour of abolishing the Seanad, and if it passes with the help of my vote, I'll certainly be voting to abolish it when it comes to the referendum. And I hear a lot of people saying that people should have more of a choice, in that it shouldn't just be a straight choice between abolition or keep it as the way it is. And I would agree with that point of view, but if I was given that option, I would vote for abolition anyways, because I have full confidence in the people of Ireland through the Dáil system of how you can go out and vote for people, ordinary people voting for other ordinary people, to get in here. And if you want engineers represented or computer programmers represented, well, let them go out and run for election then if they want to be represented in here. Because it's not an exclusive club. If you go out and you burn a hole in your shoe leather, and you go out and you listen to people and you knock on doors and you tell them your ideas and they vote for you, you get in here. So I really don't see any problem with the system if you got rid of the Seanad. I don't think anyone would be left out. I think if anyone feels that's the case, well, I think they should wake up to the fact that anyone can run for election. It's a challenge, but you can do it. So I do find it kind of interesting, some of the characters that are involved in trying to keep the Seanad, such as former Minister Michael McDowell, Democracy Now! I suggest he changes the name of it to Democracy when it suits him, because it seems he's interested in it 1 minute and he isn't the next. So if he wants to represent the people, let him go out and look for his votes and try and get in here. And he got his answer the last time, and I imagine he'd get it again, because people haven't forgotten the damage that he did to this country. So, and I have to say, I'm delighted to see that he's on that side of the campaign, because most of the people I've talked to in Roscommon said that any thoughts of voting to keep it are now gone out the window. So it's good. I'm glad to see he's achieving something eventually. So some people would say that if we didn't have the Seanad, we wouldn't have brilliant people like David Norris. I think David Norris, if he went out and ran in an election for the Dáil, he'd get elected. I'd vote for him for a start if I was in his constituency, because he has proved himself as an excellent parliamentarian, an excellent contributor to debates. So I don't think anyone should be afraid of that. But the downside, I suppose, is that people believe there will be less oversight, because the remaining House, the Dáil, the people in it just wouldn't have the time to scrutinise all the legislation. Well, there is a way they would have the time, and that is if we weren't poking our noses in a failed local government system all the time. And the reforms that are suggested, and I'm sad that I have to say this, I think the reforms that are suggested for local government, they're just not going to do it. Just from my 6 years' experience in local government, I have to say I'm very, very disappointed with them, because I don't think the Seanad provided much accountability anyways, but if you're going to take away any little thin layer of accountability, you need to put something else in its place. But I think the biggest benefit of having proper local government would be that we could spend every last bit of our time in here crossing the T's and dotting the I's on legislation. And I have to be honest with you, if we had proper local government, I probably wouldn't be here anyways. I prefer to be in local government with real power to help local communities to use the money that's there at a local level to benefit those communities. And I think you'd have a better selection of people then who would come in here, who would be maybe more suited to scrutinising legislation or whatever. But I will be voting in favour of this. I will be voting to get rid of the Seanad, and I will be then hoping that all the rest will be reformed. But the news isn't good, but I'm certainly not going to change my view on the Seanad because of that. Thank you.
For that's going to call. I too am delighted to be able to speak on this tonight. I'm disappointed that it's so rushed. It's probably will be guillotine. I've only got 5 minutes.